Anyway, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I'm here today to start an Unravel-a-thon. Over the last week, we did 5 live streams where we dyed 21 different blanks. These are commercial sock blanks from Knit Picks. They're homemade single-stranded, double-stranded blanks, and even some hand-crocheted single-stranded and double-stranded blanks. With the knit blanks, I made them on a combination of either my Singer knitting machine or the newer Loops and Threads knitting machine. I know some of you really want to see how I make the flat panels on the Loops and Threads machine, and I hope to film a video about that at some point. But first, I'm really itching to start unraveling some of these yarns so we can see how it turns out. I've got 4 recaps up from the 5 live streams, which show the finished dried yarn, a couple pictures from the dyeing, and I talk a bit and give some close-ups and talk about the technique and the results. Once I have unraveled all the yarns, I'm going to do another recap. But this one I think will be more of a slideshow where I'll have maybe like a dyeing, I'll separate them by it'll be one big video, but I'll have, like live stream 1, and then I'll show all the videos from the random, or all the yarns from the random patterns, and show pictures of the blank, maybe some pictures from the dyeing, the blank, and then what the final yarns look like. So that way, it will help you then pinpoint you to where to go if you want to watch the dyeing. Oh, you're going to unravel along with me? That is awesome. So I think that's my plan. I did have someone request to maybe edit down the live streams into separate dyeing videos, and I think that would be really cool. It would just take a lot longer for me to do and it would limit my ability to produce new videos. Plus, I will be doing a lot of these techniques in standalone videos in the future. So I think the best way, if you want to kind of get a summary, is to look at the recaps that I've just been releasing of the live streams, and then that'll tell you if you want to go through and if you scroll along the bottom of a YouTube video, you can see a little thumbnail pop up, and that'll help you, I guess, find the point where I am dyeing a particular blank. Thank you. I thought that, I haven't dyed any feathers, but you can dye feathers with food coloring and acid dyes, so I thought that it was appropriate for what we're doing. So in the little info tab and in the video description, you can see a link to the playlist for the Sock Blank Special 2. And in there you have all the videos, the live streams, the recaps, the sneak peek unravelings, and I sort of ordered the videos so that way a sneak peek unraveling shows up right behind the pre-filmed episode, and that the recaps are in the playlist right after the live streams. So it's sort of organized so that way you can find everything that you might want. And so hopefully that'll be helpful and useful. So I am going to, I think, swap to the other camera. I have a big window here. As you can see, it's blown out behind me. And so I need to, so it means that I have the camera at a weird upper angle over there. Hello, welcome everyone. Okay, so with me here on my couch, I have just a bunch of blanks that I pulled out. These aren't necessarily the ones that I'll start unraveling, but some of them are. I'm going to start with this single-stranded crochet blank, but I just thought it would be a fun backdrop. I made 2 more nitty-knotties, so that way I have plenty. Now, a lot of times when I do an unraveling sneak peek, I want to leave the yarn on the nitty-knotty because I want to film the yarn on the nitty-knotty for the end of the video. But today I can take them off as needed because, I'll just take some pictures of it beforehand so that way I can use it in the final overall slideshow as needed. Now, when I'm doing a single-stranded blank, I will unravel it onto a 1-foot nitty-knotty. This bar is 12 inches long, and I will wrap it sort of up and around the whole thing to get a 4-foot skein. When I am unraveling double-stranded blank, instead of having the nitty-knotty in the sort of the perpendicular configuration, I have it in an H configuration, and I wrap the 2 strands around it at the same time, one on either side, to again end up with a 4-foot skein. It's just longer, so rather than the math works out. They end up being the same size. Yes, all the nitty naughties. There are some videos, which I don't think I put links in. There are videos on my channel that talks about making your own nitty naughty out of PVC pipe. And I even talk about what all the different parts are called, so that way you can make them on your own. But, I think it's like, if you go to a home improvement store, the entire materials are about $6. And if they have someone free, sometimes you can get some free cuts. I do have a little tool that I use to make you buy the pieces in 2 feet sections, but I have a little tool that helps me cut the pipe myself at home. But sometimes if you're nice, they will help you out with it without even charging you extra. So yeah, I figured there have been times when I've been limited based on my nitty naughties. So the first blank we are going to unravel is this hand crocheted blank. This is a single stranded blank made out of Big O yarn, which is 50% superwash merino, 50% nylon. And just from when I start, you can see that we're gonna get some cool speckling. This is one of the blanks that I dyed in the first live stream that was focused on random patterns. And I have been itching to unravel it to see how it turns out. Now, do I have my weighted clip? Except for the fact that I want you guys to be able to see the blanks and stuff as I'm unraveling. Otherwise, I might be inclined to stick the blank under a book or something, but I want to show it. You just made mine and it was only $5.22 per nitty naughty. Yeah, and I think it also depends on if you want to have caps on the end or not. Where is, I've got a weighted clip right here. We'll see if this helps me out at all. Gives me a little resist. Because a tiny bit. The thing with crochet is this is unraveling easily. It's just the pressure from me pulling on it is not quite as good as, it requires a little more pressure to unravel it. But there we go. But this was a bulky weight yarn. And I don't think I linked to all of the individual yarns in the video description that I used. I just linked to the stroll blanks and in general Knit Picks Bear yarns, but they have a lot. So let me just show. We're getting this this yarn actually looks very tie-dye. Since we used all of these bright colors, I think that this was not a tie-dye technique. I did do some tie-dye blanks in that live stream, but it feels tie-dye because there's just, even when you have a section that's more one color, you have so much modeling and breaking throughout it. And that's based on the way that this blank was made out of double crochet stitches. I think I used a size K hook and I forget if it was 35 or 40 stitches across. But the double crochet stitch and the way that the stitches cross around each other, and I think even in a section, where you have a lot of green or something, you get a lot of just the variation of color because of the way the dyes penetrate differently. You did cats. Oh, you're going to gift some of the knitting naughties? That's awesome. Yeah, this yarn is awesome. But yeah, I could tuck it into a cushion or something as well. But the crochet ones, I'm nervous about undoing the other double-stranded crochet blank that I've got. I know that those take a bit more effort. Oh, I had mentioned the green. So the green is a tiny bit more solid than some of the other sections, but there is still some variation of the tone around those big green sections. And part of my goal for this blank was to dye a totally random pattern, but I also wanted there to be some overall gradient or differences to the colorway. because I dyed a really awesome random Chemnitz design in the first Sock Length special, but the problem with it is since I had almost all the colors all the way throughout, I think that it's going to be, it was a gorgeous random yarn, but you didn't get anything that really took advantage of your ability to make something really asymmetric. So, yeah, but I think that this is only maybe 110 yards. So the unraveling goes extra fast. And, oh, bummer, there was a, so I think the industry standard is fewer than 2 knots in a skein of yarn for what they allow. And so there was one, like, well, it was more of a join than a knot. I rarely find them in my Knit Picks yarns, but every once in a while they're there. Reminds me of a bucket of melted crayons. Ooh, that is, yeah. I like actually making crayons. I save old broken crayons and then I like melt them into candy molds to make fun crayon shapes. But yeah, even the foundation chain has some really, really cool variation of color. And I think that, you know, with a bulky yarn, you could hand knit something and it would look really cool and could give you a really cool gradient as well. There's just the crochet, the way that the rows and stuff with a crocheted fabric is different. I mean, I know one of you was making a crochet blank and you were doing single crochet, double crochet, and a bunch of different stitches. And so I think that even if you were doing one, like, you know, even width stripes across the whole blank, if you varied the different kind of crochet stitches, then you can end up with like something really cool. So there are just many, many options of what you could do when you're playing around with this. And then in the UK, it's not easy to find niddy noddies, so making them is great. Yeah, I mean, I think that sometimes you can find them for $20. They're not necessarily that expensive, but with the wooden ones, I don't know how much versatility there is to the niddy noddies. Whereas with these, you know, I could make, with these coupling pieces, I could make, you know, the bar 8 feet long and make a really, really long skein. I mean, I don't think I'd be able to do like up and back with 8 feet in here, but you could easily make, you know, a 16-foot skein and have like some control over the measurement. Oh, Oreo cream, that was you. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I cannot wait to see how that turned out. And so if you want to see how some of everyone else's sock blanks and different crochet blanks and all the kinds of blanks are turning out, come check out the Chemnitz Lab group on Facebook. Actually, I can pop a link in. Here is a link. I just popped it into chat, a link to the Chemnitz Lab group. So that way you can join and you can share your pictures and see what everyone else is creating too. And it is a lot of fun. And I'm going to take a brief drink as I'm still looking at my computer instead of looking up at you. Oh, your die kit got stuck in the maelstrom. Anyway, where is... When I don't have handy, and so I better grab, is my phone so I can take pictures. I was all prepared until you leave one thing in the dining room. But that way, in case I take it off the blank, I have some pictures of the gradient. What I didn't really do was set up a good spot for taking some pictures of it. Because I'm like constrained in this slightly messy arena, but I think that's okay. I'll be able to take better pictures of it when it's in skein, like a twisted skein. Now with all of these, I do, because we've got some crimp to the yarns from whether we knit or crochet, I do plan to wet them and to let them dry again, so that way the yarn will relax a bit. I do have some crochet cotton on hand in case I want to add some extra ties to the yarn. Normally I will wet it on the Niddy Noddy and let it dry on the Niddy Noddy. It's PVC pipe, it can handle the water, and I normally don't unravel that many at once. However, today I am, so let's see. But I'm not going to take them off the Niddy Noddy until I need to. Oh, you bought the Color Right system yesterday? Woohoo! Yes. Yeah, if you don't have Facebook, there is a Ravelry group, which I'm not as good about checking. But if you send me a PM on Ravelry, that comes to my email. And so then that is a good way to get my attention. Okay, so next. All right, I think I want to do this one next. Partly because I caught one end of it and you can see some of the yarn already coming unraveled. But this one that I dyed in the random patterns live stream, I think is just awesome. I'm almost sad to unravel it because I think it is so pretty, and I sort of wish that this was a pattern on a silk scarf or something and I could just keep it forever. In fact, I'm just grabbing one more photo. I believe I have, well, I certainly have videos of all of them dry laid out. But yeah, I just think that this one is so, so pretty. So basically this one was scrunched up sort of like this in a pot. And then I did some low immersion technique where I poured the dye over it, expecting that I would get, I was really expecting to get, I wanted a pale backdrop to use for the stenciling. But this wasn't pale and had so much pattern already. It was really, really cool. So what to do while you're waiting for your stuff to arrive? Make more blanks? Amen. I have a ton of blanks that I didn't even use yet. So, you know, I'll either have to do another special or they will show up in Dye Pot Weekly episodes and things like that. I have so many things that I want to dye that, you know, having limited filming time is a problem sometimes. The blank and the gray birds are your favorites? Yeah, I'm excited. So I was just starting to film the recap for the Sprinkles and Speckling episode. But what's fun, and I'm not sure how well you can see, but there's so much speckling that we will get from all of these blanks, especially ones that have lots of variation of color sort of within the blank itself. And so, well, oh, come on. Come on. How am I trapped? Oh, goodness. Either started at the wrong end or I got tangled somewhere. Totally got tangled somewhere. Maybe I need to start at the other end. What did I do? This is the thing with live TV. You guys get... Taking this out. I'm trying to connect two pieces of pipe together that I know won't connect. And let's see what happened. Because it's sort of unraveling in two spots at once. I normally don't have any trouble with these Knit Picks blanks, but oh, I have a knot here. That's problem one. Okay. So I think, and I can't say for sure, but I think that when Knit Picks offers their Stroll gradient yarns, I think that they make those using some of their blanks. Which I think is pretty cool. Because from looking at the colors, it does look like, there we go. It's got twisted in itself. Nope. Oh, come on. If I have to do this for one more row, then I'm going to have to start from the other side because something funky is going on. Yeah. All right, I'm going to start from the other side. This is behaving funkily. What? Oh, funny. You know what this must be? Because I just pulled this and I got like a little piece of yarn that came off. This must be like some of the intermediate yarn from between two blanks when they cut the machine. Because I definitely did not cut that. There we go. Okay. We'll start from this end. Do. It's snowing and you're gonna die roving later. Yeah, we're gonna get some snow too. Hopefully school doesn't get canceled tomorrow. If basically today I'm gonna go as long as I can and unravel as many blanks as I can, hanging out and chatting with y'all. And then, maybe I'll take a break and come back in the afternoon. I don't know. But I plan to do as much as I can this week, and yeah, we'll see. It depends on, if the kids have school tomorrow or if and things like that. But I just think it's amazing that this whole blank that I'm doing right now was dyed with a total of probably 9 or fewer drops of food coloring from the Wilton Colorite system. So the colors are potent. I mean, all food coloring drops are pretty potent. The ice dyeing video showed how potent a single drop can be, but it's just fun to see. And look at how specced these yarns are. Yeah, the thing is with these, normally it does not take me hours to do them. So that's why I was surprised when I was having issues at the beginning. But what's cool, and I guess I didn't even give my sock blank spiel. Sock blanks and blanks in general are pre-knit or crocheted pieces of fabric that are created with the intent to dye them so that way you can get, well, any kind of pattern that you want, and it's something that would be a way harder to achieve if you were starting with a skein of yarn. Like I would never be able to create this mottled speckled yarn without without using a blank. Oh, good night. Thanks for joining. But the thing that's great about a double-stranded blank is that as I unravel it and you see all of these random patterns on this blank, we will get 2 identical 50-gram skeins of yarn. And so you could do this, I mean, I'd almost be tempted with these colorways to do a symmetrical shawl or something, but you have something so that you can do, if you want something symmetrical or if you want to do identical socks or mittens or something, then that's available to you. And that's something that would be really, really hard to do if you were randomly hand painting, say, 2 50-gram skeins of yarn. It'd be hard to make them truly identical and match up. I'm glad you guys are all able to join in on the fun today. But it's been really hard for me lately to not just start unraveling some of these blanks as I was, watching TV or doing something like that. So, but I love how I realized that maybe the better term for the way that these yarns end up being really speckled is dappled. But just when you have less food coloring, the dappling or speckling that you get is even more sort of extreme. If you use a lot of color, you can get something that is much more subtle. You can get something that is way more of a semi-solid versus feeling, really speckled. And it just depends on the amount of dye you use and the type of yarn that you use. So if you're dyeing on 100% wool yarn, you'll see more even coverage than if you're doing a superwash yarn or something, especially like Stroll, which just takes up color so fast that It's funny. I was looking at glancing at the reviews on the Knit Picks website, and someone complained that it took up dye too fast, which I thought was sort of funny. So, oh, goody. I'm so glad that you guys are here. Yeah, it's hard to wait sometimes. I always think of we really like the Elephant and Piggy books, so I always think of waiting is not easy as I'm doing this. Actually, since it's a little easier, I wonder if, there. That way at least I feel like I'm facing you guys as I'm doing this. Although I could zoom this in. Let's see. So that way we can see my face. Yee, that's big. Okay. That way I can look at you guys sometimes as I'm doing this. You have such restraint to wait and do a live stream. Yeah, well, I mean, it's sort of, since all of this was done on a live stream, it would feel a little like cheating to do it elsewhere. Just because, you know, you've been part of the journey of all of these yarns. And I don't even know where to look right now because I have the two cameras. Same with my unboxings, right? Yeah. Ooh, I might be on later tonight with speaking of unboxings, I think my March knit crate is going to show up, which I am really excited for. And I actually have a Knit Picks box that did show up as well, but I can't do those in the same unboxing though. But so those are the other things that will be coming up this week. But yes, I'm hoping, as much as I'm excited for snow, because then maybe I can do some more snow dyeing, I really want, I think I don't like my little face. As much as I am excited for some snow dyeing, I really don't want too much snow, so then we end up with a snow day. But so we're starting, maybe it's a little hard for you guys to see, but it's starting, you know, we're going to have a gradient yarn here, which is really cool. Oh, you've been waiting to unravel yours so you can ravel with me. That's awesome. Well, oh, I guess, so I haven't tried using salt a lot. And the comment just came up that maybe if it takes up dye too fast to try using salt. I haven't played around with salt yet. I personally don't mind how quickly the stroll takes up color. I think that the fact that it takes up color quickly is what allows us to make a yarn like this. I think that it would be worth exploring ways to make colors absorb slower, so you can get more even coverage as you might want. But I also think that it's cool, like the yarn, as much as like the dye tools and stuff are techniques, the yarn that you're dyeing itself is a technique and a tool. And so, you know, there's certain kinds of speckling techniques that work great on superwash yarns, but do not work nearly as well on 100% wool yarns. And so you know, if there's a specific yarn you want to achieve, then maybe you need to think about the type of yarn that you're selecting before you try the technique. But I really, really like unraveling these stroll blanks. They are really easy. I know I'm going to have some later on that are going to be a bit harder to unravel because I have some of the blanks that I still made with a center pull ball and things like that. So I'm not looking forward to that as much, just because I know that they're going to be a little harder. Except I'm looking forward to the yarns. I forget if this one, it's a double-stranded Swish DK. I forget if that is one that I used 250-gram balls of yarn or if I used a center pull. So we'll have to see. But yeah, and now we're starting to transition into the final sort of section for this. But this yarn, this is one that might end up in my personal collection. I'm going to need to see if I can replicate this. I think that this, and thankfully I did write down, the nice thing with mixing the colors in the live stream is that I can go back and see exactly what I did. But the problem sometimes with the live streams, it's like when I'm reusing dyes that I mixed in previous ones, it gets a bit harder. Or there's some colors that end up, like I'll combine all the colors from one live stream and use that mixture in another one. So that becomes a little harder to recreate. This is the bling that looks like a marble. Yeah. I would love that pattern on countertop. But yeah, now you can start to see that we've got a bit of a gradient going on. Oh, this is so pretty. So some of the others that I'm most excited to unravel, and oh, as I start unraveling them, I should pull out some other ones to have on the backdrop. I'm really excited to unravel the rainbow. Depending on how it comes out, I definitely need to keep a rainbow spec for myself, but I feel like playing more. I still have, I think I could probably make, I would think at least 2 more of those with the amount of the color mist sprays that I have left. So that would be kind of cool. The color mist sprays go a lot further than I would expect. If you wanted to use them to get a deep color, a single deep color across a whole blank, that might not last very long, but yeah. So how are they going to knit up? Like a pattern or different? So these ones would knit up, like seeing them in, let me hold it closer, in sort of the skein form can kind of help you get a sense. I think you'd end up with like a dappled fabric, but you would not really necessarily see a pattern. Because all of these specks throughout the yarn are so random, you might get little spots where you see pooling, but across the whole project, there would not be very much pooling, which is one benefit of this random thing. Because, you know, when you're doing a planned pooling project, the math and everything is really important when you're dyeing for that, because you need really regular repeats. And that's one of the fun things about doing these blanks, that even if, you know, because we get this like really nice gradient as well, I think that overall, even though it was a little more wild on the blank itself, once you start knitting it, it'll be a lot more subtle. And so that'll be fun. You just saw someone use dye powder mixed with citric acid in a salt shaker. The yarn was wet with acid water. It strikes the speckles immediately. You have to wear a mask because you're spreading powder in the air. Yes, so if you're doing that with acid dyes, absolutely. I mean, I think that that's somewhat similar, but probably the colors are more diluted than if you were using, say, Kool-Aid. But if you don't have Kool-Aid in your area, either make some, you can make your own sugar sprinkles by mixing food coloring and sugar and baking it. There's some recipes for that. But you can mix your own, so you can make your own sugar crystals and then mix that in with some citric acid in a salt shaker and use that. Or if you have powdered food coloring, you can mix it with some salt and citric acid again to sort of, the salt, when you're adding salt to a shaker to do those sort of speckles, I think it's more to break up the color. So that way you don't end up with a big dump of color in one section. If you cut it with the salt, it makes it easier to sort of sprinkle lightly over the yarn. You had thought to buy a knitting machine to make some blanks. You find you like solids and tonals, but not the speckled yarn you get with the blanks. And it saved you time and money. Yeah, so you can get, I think you can, like, if you look at the unraveling, I did a dip dyed blank in 2 different colors. And there is some speckling in there still, but you get more, the tones are more even because the whole blank was submerged in the color. Some of this more extreme speckling is because we're going to get speckling when I do this rainbow one because the color is very uneven. So I think that you can get less speckling if you do more dye and things like that. But it also depends on the yarn type. So there'll be some modeling with, say, this worsted weight blank over there, but it won't be as much as the straw blanks. You wonder what chocolate milk powder would do? Ugh. I think chocolate would be kind of a mess to mix out of the yarn. Oh, she said the salt is hard on the wool. I don't know. I think it depends. I don't know. I haven't played around with salt too much to give good thoughts on that. So here are the gradients that we're getting right now. I'm trying to think of what other. See, these sort of dappled yarns are my favorite. So that's something that is more of a goal of mine while I am doing this. But I'm trying to think of, maybe I'll unravel that one next. Do I have one that I can, oh no, I just used this one. Okay. See, I'm like, oh, I need more short flanks, but actually, I do have two single-stranded. I can just do them on either side. Because see, I used here, even though I can take things off, I used this one had the connector, so I don't have on hand another 1 foot piece. And this one, I definitely want to photograph. Well, I don't think I want to dye yarn with chocolate at all. I mean, chocolate gets melty. Because the question was, how about unsweetened cocoa powder? It's not the sugar, because I mean, I dye yarn with candy and stuff. It's the dairy and the chocolate that frighten me from it. Oh, this is gorgeous. I try really hard to not just do blues, but I love blues, greens, purples. Those are my favorites. And so the colors here were a mixture of the Colorite. I think we started with a mixture of Colorite pink and blue. Then there was blue and black in the middle, and then just black at the other end. And so I was hoping for something more like the backdrop of that, but the colors struck so fast that it was amazing. I'm coming on the end. It's funny, in some of the streams, I had forgotten that I pushed the yarn to the outside as I'm unraveling. And so I was like, why am I struggling to like set up? Because I like to do that and sort of have things, that way you can sort of see the gradient a bit better. There's a bit of a shadow, but there you go. When I do it that way, you could just wind around and around in a random pattern. I just really like seeing how the colors sort of show up on the blank. Ooh. And I'm like, I really want to drink something right now, but I'm like, I'm so close to the end. Let's just make it to the end, and then you can drink, Rebecca. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't matter what end you start from, but sometimes there's something wonky that it really makes a bit of a difference. Thank you. This gradient is gorgeous. Yeah, salt is something that I want to play around with a lot more. All right, here is our, there we go. Trying to get it on, well here, maybe I'll just go close with, trying to not have the shadow. There is our really cool gradient. And part of the reason why there is so much speckling on this one is the fact that the blanket itself had like strips of these different colors. And so I think that, you know, this would not be as extreme without that. But this is really, really pretty. And I have to take some pictures. And then, oh, we had this cool yarn bit that came out. I'm going to sort of tie it around here because, oh no, I don't want to tie it around the middle when I'm about to take pictures. Oh, I can pop up my, oh, I did zoom in too far on that. La 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 la, configure, zoom back out. As I'm doing this, I may as well come up larger. Yeah, the gradient is so pretty. You use salt in almost every single dye bath. How much salt do you use? I am very curious. Ooh. That is just so pretty. Okay. grabbing some pictures to help with the live stream recaps and everything. Something different, using river mud. We get the highest tides. The mud gives t-shirts a warm, lovely orange-brown color. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Oh, Lush Princess, thank you so much for the super chat. Oh, thank you. I really, really appreciate the support. Oh, here's another view. The other camera. The colors aren't quite right here, but I can give a little zoom in. Oh, so you maybe use a teaspoon or half of that of salt for your soaks or for your dye baths. That's cool. Yeah, this yarn is awesome. I'm going to set that up there. Yeah, so if you guys see in the chat, there's this really pretty, brightly colored box that popped up. That's a super chat. And so it's sort of like a tip jar, and it's a way to support me and the channel and the materials I use in these live streams. And you can do that by, there's a little $ at the bottom of the chat, and that allows you to send over some money to me without having to even leave the chat or leave the stream. But some other ways that you can support me are I do offer some patterns for sale on Ravelry. You can find them on my website. They're on the sidebar of chemknits.com. You can, if you're interested in some of the products that I use or recommend, I have affiliate relationships with, or influencer relationships with many of these companies. So, you know, check out the products that I have in the video description, and that helps. But also watching the videos, commenting on the videos, liking the videos, and subscribing to my channel also really, really helps as I get forward. But yes, the super chats are very helpful, and thank you, Lush Princess, so much for that support. Yeah, you guys have been great about doing that. It has been it has helped because with 20 blanks, the cost for the last week was higher than normal. So I greatly, greatly appreciate all of the support. But I am actually, I think, going to take a brief break and send you guys to a little bit of a commercial break. I appreciate you guys hanging tight through the ads. The ads also help support everything that I do here. And excuse me, I will get started with the next blank after that is done. Oops. And I know some people that watch the replays have said that it's funny and like a behind the scenes look because you watch, I'm waiting until, because I have to wait to press the button until I see the chat get to sort of the relevant spot. And so then you guys, yeah, I think that it's just amusing, but not everyone sees an ad. Oh, I don't know if you're seeing an ad right now, but thank you for buying my shawl pattern a few days ago. Actually, I can add that in here because I don't know if you can hear me because some people see ads, some people don't. Like YouTube Red people won't ever see it. But thank you guys and welcome back. Let's see. What do I want to unravel next? I think I might go ahead and do this one. So this is a Wool of the Andes worsted weight blank that I made on my Singer knitting machine. And this is one that has loads of imperfections through it. Lots and lots of imperfections. But I actually tied it in knots along the length and then and dip dyed it. And I thought I would dip dye in teal and then in brown. But I had enough dye, and I don't know how much the breaking shows up here. But you go from this teal to sort of you get this bright blue at the end, and is really, really fun. You've never seen an ad during one of my live streams? I think that there's many different characteristics that go into the, oh, there's like a legit knot here. There's a lot of different things that go into the algorithm so that YouTube selects. But I think where you live could depend on it, or I don't know. I have no idea. Okay, so when I'm doing homemade blanks, sometimes I like to pull yarn through the stitches at the end just to sort of keep it from unraveling when I'm dyeing it. I haven't really been doing that with the loops and threads machine, but that way I can just quickly, then I can start unraveling. Now, since I didn't have handy, I'm going to just do this around one side of this. So not in my proper nitty-knotty configuration. Although, maybe I want to. I was like, I don't think, all right, I'm going to take, see, this is what I don't normally ever do. I normally leave things on the nitty-knotties forever. But I did already take pictures of this guy. And I am going to add, it's a lot more comfortable. The reason why nitty-knotties as like a technique exists is that it's a lot more comfortable to add, it's a lot more comfortable to wind yarn around like something like this than to hold the longer section. Where is the, oh, that's where the thing is. So normally I'm bad and I don't add additional ties, but I'm doing it today because things, just in case things crimp up and I don't want to end up with a big mess. So it's just like a little insurance policy. I thought about having like a basin of water to just dip the crimped blanks straight into, but I didn't bother with that. All right. But this one actually probably isn't going to be so bad as one of the crocheted blanks. But yeah, you can see why this was the first one that I unraveled in this stream, but you can see why you might want to make it relax. This one isn't so bad, but it's also a bulkier yarn, and so it shouldn't get too tangled. But I'm going to set that aside. If the kids were out of town or something, I would have set up a drying rack to down here and then set up a whole little production. But you can see how crimped this one is. And so why it could get tangled. You're in Tennessee and you never see my ads? Interesting. Again, I have no idea what goes into the algorithm. You know, it says, like, when I set it up, it says there's like a little message that pops up that's like, some people might see ads now. And I had a Clippy. Oh, Rebecca. If you were my weighted clip, here it is. Just to give it a little bit of a resist. So that way I can pull out the yarn. Huh. I see. But there we go. So yeah, doing my hands move around a lot more, but doing the single stranded blanks are a bit easier to unravel. And there. But you can see here, the color here is a lot more even than the color from even if I were to dip dye one of the stroll blanks, I think that the resulting color would not be as even as this one. When I did my big broken violet gradient, which there's a video on the channel, that did have some dappling in it. But I think that, again, the amount of dye and stuff will give you sort of a more tonal yarn feeling versus a dappled or speckled yarn. But that's one of the reasons why I did tie these knots, to sort of not have it just be a clean gradient, to give it a bit more variation. And yeah, as I'm unraveling this, there's lots of little knots, but I did have many mistakes. This was like an example of what not to do that I did not film on my Singer knitting machine. You've had success relaxing the yarn, just wetting and hanging it out to dry. Yes, that's That's exactly what I do. And that's why it's because of the crimping, which is why I do bother wetting the yarn. What I'm curious is if you need any additional weight to help the crimps relax, since I normally let it dry on the Nitty Knotty. But I think it comes from when I do my spinning, because I do want the weight there to help the yarns relax into the twist. And so that is why, like, I just out of habit have been doing it on the Nitty Knotties. But it's possible that as soon as I add it to water, if I add it to water and do like a quick like snap, that'll be enough to just relax it. So it'll be really hard on camera for you to see the really subtle tonal variations here. Like in some of the sections that were within a knot, you see a little more dappling than you do on the rest of the skein. But when you knit it up, you'll see the cool like kettle dyed little variation, which is something, I mean, I love tonal yarns. Some of my favorite yarns to use for complex projects where you have a lot of stitches, I love using tonal yarns because they're not 100% solid, so you still get some really cool variation, but it's subtle enough that whatever pattern you're doing can still really stand out. Thank you guys. That's really funny. Yeah, and it could depend. Oh, so I have no idea. But anyway, I appreciate you guys being patient on these live streams while I take breaks. But yeah, you can see that this is a lot faster in all ways than the double-stranded blanks. And there's a few different ways that people like to wind around Nitty Knotties. Right now, since I've been using my other arm a lot more, I'm using my hand to go around more, but you can also sort of twist the Nitty Knotty a bit more. The weight of the water was enough to pull it out. Oh, awesome. And that'll make my life easier as I start hanging all these up to dry. But I don't know if you guys can see, it's not showing up as well on camera. In person, this really, really subtle gradient is just gorgeous. Hopefully I'll be able to capture that on my camera. So that way you guys can really see. Yeah, this weighted clip that I also need to film a video for this I-cord maker I have. But that came with, unlike the loops and threads machine, this is more of a proper, weighted clip. Oh, cool, I got some Amazon package. When I used to live in an apartment building where we went out the back door all the time because that's where we parked, and the steps were easier to get down, and we stored the stroller in the back hallway. But so therefore, I never really knew when we got mail or packages because I never went out the front. So I started setting up text notifications so that way I would know when things were delivered, so that way I knew to go outside and look for it. Morning! Oh yeah, I plan to keep going for a while. And you know, depending on how tired my arm is, maybe I'll take a break and then come back. But okay, so here, now that we're ending the end with the broken blue, you can see more of the dappling. And that's because as we were approaching this end, even though we still have these bright blue tones, in some of the sections where we had the knots, you can see a lot more change in the tone of the color. But again, I just sort of wanted to show that depending on the yarn that you pick, you can get something that has more specks to the feel versus less. Yeah, I'm glad you get to join in for a live one. Yeah, this will be, again, I don't know how long I'll be able to go because my arm might get tired. And so that could be another reason why. In theory, if the kids are in school, I would do another unraveling video tomorrow. But if I wake up with a sore arm, then maybe not. Cool. There we go. I wish that you guys, whoops. And so if you're not doing this on camera, you could use your foot or something to help, but I don't really want to put my feet on camera. Hello, it's a wonderful morning and we get to watch Rebecca unravel. I love that. Okay, so you can kind of, I don't feel like it shows up as blue as it really is on camera with the more dappled end, but it's sort of a really just nice, subtle gradient. And I'm going to snap some pictures before I forget. Yeah, because even on the camera, it's just really subtle. Oh, so I should be thinking about how I'm taking these in like portrait or landscape, because I don't want portrait photos going into the recap. Still having trouble getting the tone, so I'm going into like adjusting my white balance to try to help. No, I don't want a selfie. Sorry, I know that this isn't exciting, but this allows me to use like more of my nitty knotties over and over. Okay, that's a little better. Don't need the exposure that high from close up. Cool. If anyone gets that reference, I'm giggling. The collarbone, we'll see the orthopedist soon. So the collarbone is healing, as well. I mean, he's not in any pain, so it seems like it's healing pretty well so far. I'm gonna have it so you guys can still see the other ones that we've done. Okay. I think I really want to do my 2 rainbow ones, but I think I will grab some others just to have as backdrop, because I am very excited by this rainbow that I did. Well, I'm excited by the striped one that I'm just hanging up right now too. But this is a rainbow that I did with the Color Mist sprays. And the recap of this video just came out last night. And what's cool about this one is that there's so little color penetration on the back. Let's see if I hold it so you can see the front and the back sort of at the same time. And so because the color is really on the front, with the purple or something, if I do this, it might show up a little bit. So if I spread it out, you can see that white on the wrong side. And so this is definitely going to give us like dappled and specks. If we had hand painted this yarn with something, then we would get like less variation behind the stitches. But the reason why I love spray painting is because we can get this light coverage. A few loose tie-offs, yes. I did some extra tie-offs on the crochet blank that I took off the nitty knotty already. And yeah, the other thing I wanted to point out with this, and I showed it in the recap, I don't know if you remembered that I used my washable marker on this, but we have little blue dots in some of the color transitions, because apparently, now with some combination of vinegar, heating the yarn, using wool instead of cotton or something, these washable markers, which wash out of t-shirts and pants and everything, did not wash out of the yarn. So maybe Crayola markers are something that are worth playing around with in the future. Let's see which end is going to unravel better. Because I feel like both, okay, let's start from the red end. Okay, so I'm starting to unravel this. You can see that we've got these little specks of color. And what's interesting is that this time things are not nearly as identical as they are sometimes. So you can see that there is actually a little difference between the 2 strands. Now, what will be identical are the sections that have red versus the sections that have orange. But the actual speckles themselves are slightly different because the coverage is so light. It depends a lot on in which stitch, which strand is more on top than the other one, which I think is pretty cool. But in the last one that I did, the rainbow, I think that was Die Cut Weekly number 14. In that rainbow, things were a lot more identical because on the right side of the fabric, I had a lot more white patches. So therefore, you know, when you were looking at the specs, you saw specs, even if they might be slightly different sizes, in the same sort of areas on the yarn. Someday you have to try that. Yeah, I think that all these dots will give a lot of dimension to just otherwise what would be sort of a, not plain, never plain, but just a simple rainbow gradient on the front is going to translate into this awesome yarn. And so in the spray painting episode, which, you know, all the replays are up on the channel. And if you're just tuning in, I also have a link to the whole playlist from the Sock Blank Special 2 in this video description. And so the relevant recaps on the playlist are right after their videos. So if you go and you look at it, you can sort of, it's an easier way to find which recap goes to which episode. So hopefully that'll be helpful. But yeah, I mean, this yarn took very little time to dye compared to some of the other, like the striping, hand painting stripes takes a lot longer than the spray painting. But in this episode, I showed that you could use a bunch of different kinds of bottles to get similar types of coverage without paying the, you know, the $4 some plus for the Color Mist spray bottles, which you can't refill. So I used, you know, industrial spray bottles, the Misto pressurized spray container, which in a later live stream, I decided that might actually be one of my favorites because you get some control over the amount that you spray, very much like the Color Mist sprays. And you just take some practice. So maybe you want to play with water before you start playing with food coloring to play with your application. But it worked really, really nicely. And I wish you could knit up a swatch of these blanks so we could see how they turn out. Yeah, I mean, with some of the gradients, it would be a little hard to knit a swatch because the reason why it would be a bit harder to make a swatch is just because, you know, you wouldn't see the whole gradient. But let me see. Ooh, and we're transitioning into our orange already. Let me grab a hat. If I can find it quickly. Okay, so this is my Genie Pussy Hat knitting pattern, and I had dip dyed a blank like the teal one I just unraveled. It was 100% wool. It was the Wool of the Andes base. I knit it into that tube blank on my Singer knitting machine, and then I dip dyed it into Wilton's Violet. And this is used on the cover of a lot of my things. And so the colors that came out were dappled. I don't have the rest of the leftover yarn down here. The colors were really dappled, but you get, you know, overall it just feels very, very tonal and subtle, you know, so you get, you know, your transitions from the colors, but unfortunately the reds aren't coming up quite as well. But so this is, you know, these are way more dappled. These stroll blanks are way more dappled than the Wool of the Andes blank turned out. But that's the best thing I have for a swatch, and shows how kind of the more dappled section on this yarn would turn out. And it would look very much like a tonal dyed yarn and have a lot of interest, and there's lots of flecks of color, but they mix together really nicely when you knit it up. I get asked for swatches a lot, and it's something that I wish I could do, but ultimately the reason why I don't really bother with swatches is that it depends so much on the gauge, the number of stitches, and the pattern, especially when you're dealing with some of these yarns that have a lot more variation of color throughout, like that crocheted blank that I started at the beginning. If I was going to knit that up, you know, if you add one more stitch to the end, you're going to get a very different pattern as you knit it up. So I am collecting pictures. Since I distributed a lot of my yarns in the Kickstarter campaign, I am collecting pictures from backers of the things that they make, and I plan to do some slideshows with that. So that way you guys can see some examples of things that are made with some of these yarns. But, you know, this, it's funny. The speckling here is a lot more ordered than it was in the last rainbow gradient that I made. But I think it's awesome. And so this will give so much depth to the yarn when you make something out of it. And I think it's almost still subtle enough that you could get away with a really cool cable or something in here as well. Yes, beautiful and subtle. Oh, yeah, I posted on the ChemKnits page. I was like, oh, you know, I bought out Michael's with all of their, like, all of the Woolton's Violet they had. But oh, that's the purple from that. Oh, good, I tied the bit up there. Okay. I also picked up 2 more bottles of the teal because I ran out. Oh my goodness, what did I do? How did I? There we go. I ran out. Oh boy. What did I do to myself? Okay. There we go. Yeah, I had run out of, during this live stream, I ran out of the Woolton's teal. And I was like, well, that's not going to be good. You want a sweater in it? Ooh, the teal. Yeah, you could do a really big vat. Use like a canning pot and add skeins of yarn sort of slowly with a lot of teal, so that way you could get a gradient and lighter or more and more blue skeins of yarn as you add the dye into the pot. Oh, and so I don't know if you can really see the brief blue specks and the orange that came through, but they actually like aren't going to really bother me because they are on the same, it's still identical with those random blue specks from my washable markers. You do a sock with a light pink toe, heel, and cuffs. Ooh. Yeah, I think that it would be really fun with a lot of these gradient yarns to dye a mini skein. And I think someone said that 20 grams is good, maybe for heels, or maybe 25 for heels, cuffs, and toes. But you could do like a really cool gradient along the main body of the sock and then use contrasting colors for the heel, or like a complementary solid. That would be fun. You dyed fleece in a similar color and it spun up nice. Ooh, that would be fun. I think teal and brown. Actually, that's one of my really good friends, some of her favorite colors. And she wanted, I think we ended up wearing teal for her wedding, but I would have been willing to wear brown. I like wearing brown. I do have auburn hair, but it looks on camera a bit browner. In the summer, it gets brighter once I've been in the sun. So, yeah, so it's fun. I think that this gradient, when I did the Dye Pot Weekly 14, the gradient is less, like this is a strict gradient. I basically just sprayed stripes on there. There I did wavy lines with white in between, and so the colorway is a little less subtle. Like this is still very speckled and will be really awesome in socks, but is still a very soft and subtle gradient, which I really like. Hee. Ah, I'm so glad so many of you joined me. So far, how many have we unraveled? 1, 2. Okay, I guess this is the 4th one that we've unraveled today, with some breaks. So it really doesn't take that long to unravel these blanks. I mean, some of them, like the double knit crochet blank behind me, that one might take longer. This homemade blank that I think I'm going to do next might take a bit longer, but we'll see. And I'm going to just keep going until I need a break. Do I have any plans for doing a roving special? As far as the special week, I don't know, but I do like doing some roving live streams sometimes. So the special week took a lot out of me physically. But I will definitely do some like Let's Die roving live streams and things like that. When I'm hand painting, I don't know. I mean, the 3 hour live streams are really fun, but ultimately it is a lot more expensive when I dye multiple skeins of yarn or roving or something in one stream, just because I'm using a lot more material, and with the views and ad revenue tend to be the same. They don't know how much more the costs are. But so maybe after a de-stash sale of some kind, when I've then had an influx, so I'm able to buy more yarn and rovings. I do have a lot of roving around, but yeah. Yeah, you're surprised how the yarn looks from the blanks. Yeah, it's just fun. I mean, it's very subtle, and the colors, the specks of color themselves are rather bright, but held back, it ends up looking a bit more pastel-like. And so this is why, since I'm doing all these techniques with shallow penetration of color, that's why when I was doing the stamping and stenciling, I wanted to have backdrops that were pale, but not white, because I wanted to have some of the yarns from this not, I didn't want all the yarns to feel the same. Not that these two yarns feel the same. I mean, we have two very different techniques, but in both of them we've got these dappled colors. So in that respect, it feels similar. Historically, back in the Middle Ages, wedding dresses were not colored white. Interesting. You're going to go to the local library today and watch them do a demo on how to speckle yarn and see what you can learn. Woohoo! Well, I mean, I don't think that it's that you learn more. Well, I mean, I guess it's up to you whether you learn more, whether you feel like you've learned more from me than someone else. But I think that getting exposure to a lot of different dyers is probably helpful for growth. And it's something that I wish that I did more of myself, just because I feel like, I mean, I never want to copy anyone, but a lot of things that I do, I sort of just experiment with. And so there's some things that I could refine and, maybe improve and then be a better teacher. So I know that, I can plug the, on Facebook, I shared some links. Craftsy is offering their unlimited service for 2 weeks for $1. So if you didn't get as much watching as you wanted over the weekend, you can try that out. And it's not something that I see on their website, and my tension went off, so it's getting a bit goofy here. But that's something that you can do, and something that when I have more time at some point, I would love to sit and knit and take some Craftsy classes. But yeah. Could you double dye a yarn, say after setting a base color and go back and dye again? Oh, absolutely. So this blank right here with the DNA, and then this one that I've covered up with the birds, those were both dyed once, and then I over dyed it with the stenciling. I actually let the blanks dry in between because I wanted to be able to film the recap before I did the stenciling. But yes, absolutely, you can dye and then over dye, which is nice, because if you get something and you don't love the color, or that there's too much white, I mean, I could take this rainbow yarn and dip dye it in gray or something, and then we would get like a gradient on the gradient or something. So you're wondering if I can make a quick comment on dyeing with shaving cream. I have never tried that before. I know that someone one of you, I think, and why did these get so off? And it's really bugging me, but if I were to wrap it around, that wouldn't help. So one of the fans shared, and they did whipped cream. And I don't remember if that was in the Chemnitz lab group or just on the Chemnitz Facebook page under the community posts. But yeah, dyeing with, I don't know how well, oh wow, this is way off. Okay. I don't know how dyeing with shaving cream would, is there enough off to, no, not quite. I don't know how well shaving cream would rinse out of yarn. I know that, I think that, well, after my parents' wedding, like one of their families, like to put shaving cream on his car and it messed up the paint. And so he's still mad about that, 30s. Oh, goodness. No, okay, like 35, 36 years later. I had to do some math to see if I was like missing. Their anniversary is really soon, so I didn't want to miss a major anniversary. But yeah, I think that it would be really, really fun to play around with shaving cream. I do have, so there's some Easter egg kits that came with like a edible food safe foam that you can create. And I definitely plan to try with that, which would be similar. I think that, marbling, you might be able to get some cool, more ways of the colors mixing on the fabric than you might with snow dyeing. But I mean, I've never tried it. So, oh, I'm glad I inspired you to try dyeing. You went straight to commercial dyes. That's fine. And your notebook looks like your chemistry notes from class. That's awesome. That makes me proud. Yes, all of these food coloring techniques that I do would translate really, really well to acid dyes. Now, with the exception of color breaking, I do not know if how, like, some acid dyes might break, but it's, that's just one thing that could be a little different from the videos. Yeah, and since it's getting lighter, I'm just sort of unraveling a little bit here. The During kids makes them more excited and interested in learning to knit with their own dyed yarns. Ooh, yeah, my eldest loves dyeing yarn. He likes playing Chemnitz video, and so we do that together sometimes. And the youngest is not as into it. And yeah, so what the problem with sometimes, and the reason why I'm struggling now, is I had a bit of a tension difference at some point. And so I've got more on one of the strands than the other. And that is just giving me a bit more trouble. And so you can see how with the crimps, things can get a bit tangled. But I'm very close to the end on this one. I'm going to take a brief beverage. Here, I'll pop up so I can see comments and I can be looking directly at you. The colors on that blank turned out so subtle. Yes. That's what's really fun with like speckled gradients. Now with the hand-painted speckles I did with the paintbrush and the straight Wilton's icing colors, that one, okay, there we go. That one is going to be pretty subtle too. There'll be a lot more white space in there. So, yeah, this one has, or maybe it'll be subtle in a different way. There'll be more white space, but it'll feel more speckled, so that when you knit with it, the colors that show up will be a lot more occasional. Where is my clippy? Got to keep you in place. The thing with the violet section is that there is some breaking in here. Oh no. Sorry guys, there is a little, maybe you can't really see. There's a tiny bit of breaking in there, which is always my favorite. But the other thing about using commercial acid dyes is you really want to make sure you're using dedicated dye equipment versus, I mean, I still use my kitchen. Oh, I forgot mine. I still use my kitchen when I'm using acid dyes. And I had another Jacquard acid dye video come out this morning in today's Dye Pot Weekly episode, which was the actual first time that I had hand painted with the Jacquard acid dyes, not the Sock Like special episode, which came out last week, but because of timing, that's just the way that ended up making sense. So when you're using commercial acid dyes, you want to have a dedicated dye pot, spoons. If you want to do the spray painting techniques, you want to have a misto that you don't use for any of your own cooking and stuff as well, just for, I guess, to be overly prudent. Sorry as I chatter less. This one, there's almost enough. I think this happened in one of the other ones before too. It's just wish I could go back in time to the wrap that was looser on one end than the other. But at least they're not twisted around each other. The next blank that I'm going to unravel, I might be struggling a lot more with it because it is a homemade double-stranded blanks. And I cannot for the life of me remember if I started with a center pull ball or not. And if I started with a center pull ball, it'll take a lot longer than some of these other ones. So, the weighted clip really does help. Rainbows make me happy. But now my tension is like pretty loose at this point because the way I'm doing this. But again, you don't have to sort of push the yarn out as you're unraveling it. I'm doing that just because I like to see the gradient on the yarn. Because, then I can take pictures and stuff like that. So it's just a personal preference thing. I'm so glad that you guys are all dyeing yarn with your kids and grandkids and stuff. That's awesome. I thought, when he first, it was maybe about a year ago, and Lucas had just started playing Chemnitz video, and I'd hear him talking, saying, "Hi, I'm Lucas from Chemnitz, and today I'm going to make a video." And so I filmed, which I ended up releasing on April Fool's Day, a video that Chemnitz is changing hands. And so that was his first video. And then I was like, well, gee, does he want to make a real video? So then we started dyeing yarn together. And he loved it. And the kid's a little natural. And it's just going to be hilarious. I know he's going to want his own channel someday. And it's a little frightening to think of, but it's fun. You're happy the yarn is so pretty. They're doing snow removal on your street today. Woohoo! Oh, I'm sorry you couldn't hear anything from but snow removal, see, I woohoo snow removal because getting my driveway's on a little cul-de-sac, which gets plowed last. And so sometimes it can be a little, even though the main street in the neighborhood at the front of my house is clear, it can be hard to get out. But, oh no, come on. Yeah, so you can see that, we don't really have a knot. There we go. I have more length on one hand than the other just because while I was doing this, I somehow messed up my tension. But, at least the two, I didn't cross over and mess up these skeins. That would be really, really sad. But again, if you're just tuning in, I do plan to wet all of the skeins because the yarn that comes off is crimped. And so if you wet it, that can help relax it. But here is, there we go. Maybe that way it gets less of the shadow from the tripod, our really, really pretty gradient. All right, and I need to take some pictures so that way I make sure to have some pictures of this for when I do the big recap of all of the dried blanks and then the yarn, the colors that it turned into when we unraveled it. Okay, so this one I will end up taking more pictures of it, I think. I mean, I'm still leaving a bunch of these yarns on the Nitty Nutties. But actually, okay, I can show now. Okay, so we've got these two techniques. One of them was low immersion dyed randomly, and this one, oops, was our color mist spray. And so in both of them, we ended up with some really dappled yarns. But the dappling here is a lot more regular because the dappling on the rainbow one is based on the knit stitches. Over here, we have a lot more random variation of color because we had like swirls and tones and depths of color on the blank, not just from low color penetration. So, but anyway, I think that I am going to send you guys to a, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. I think I'm going to send you guys to a brief commercial break and just take a moment and breathe. I know not all of you will see the commercials, but it's something that helps fund all of this. So thank you for hanging tight while I do this. And I know I'm silly to bring up my face, but it's a way for me to keep track of what's going on with the, there's a bit of a delay, so it helps me keep track of when to push the insert ad button. There we go, even though not all of you see it. That way it reduces sort of the, well, not really, but the random chatter that I'm doing otherwise. And I can go back and see what's cold for some of you. Chatting about weather. Oh, yeah, but so not everyone will be seeing an ad, and I think that now everyone should be back. But in addition to hanging tight to the ads and still hanging out on the live stream, I mean, the ways to support me are absolutely hanging out, watching the live streams. Please give this video a like. That helps as well. You know, in general, you know, subscribing to my channel and liking and commenting on my videos is a big way to support me. But another way you could support me is that there's a little $sign on the chat, and that's something called Super Chat. It is almost like a tip jar. So you can give me during the stream, you can send me some money, and if you find these videos entertaining and want to help keep the videos coming, I feel like the PBS telethon drive a little bit right now. But it is a way to contribute and to help get the supplies so I can do these big epic dyeing videos and stuff. So yeah. But next, I think, oh, right. I can show on this camera. I want to unravel another rainbow yarn that I did with the color mist sprays. But this one only, this is one that I made in the round on one of the Singer knitting machines. And what's cool is that, again, since the color penetration is really shallow, you have very little color on the wrong side of the fabric. But there is a little bit of dappling on the second piece of fabric. So even though the outside might look pure white, you'll have sections of more speckles and then lightly speckled, which will be fun. How do you pay for Super Chat? I think, excuse me, I think with a credit card. Yeah, credit card or PayPal, I think. So, yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I thought feathers would be fun for dyeing wool. And so, but yes, I appreciate all of your support and all of you hanging out. And all right, then the other camera's up there. So here is the entire blank. So in addition to doing, I sort of combined the spray painting with some of the striping techniques. I did this with sort of a diagonal because I wanted there to be sections in the transition to have some variation, to have it be more variegated. So then you can think as you look across the row, you'll have purple with a tiny bit of blue. And then as you go down, there'll be less and less purple and more blue. But still, this whiter section will carry out throughout. And I'm not sure. Okay, maybe through all the colors on the inside, we have some pale colors on the wrong side. So that'll just be nice and fun. Where is the, okay, that's where I started. Oh, thank you. That's nice. Okay, so Let's pull out. So again, I pulled the yarn through, but sometimes, okay. I need to pull through one more spot. Sometimes, sometimes when I finish up, I have more of one strand than the other. So there we go. Now I have them together. And so you can see just from unraveling a bit that we've got the section with more red and then the whiter areas in between. So this one, when you go to knit up, it's not, if your blank is really even, then it could be a nice candidate for some planned pooling. But if it's not super even, it's, you could get some really cool pooling, but I don't know if it's the best candidate for planned pooling because the edges are not sharp. Okay, so I'm going to stick the ends in, but I want to do them in approximately the same spot, even though one of the ends is longer than the other. Yes. You're on your mobile YouTube app, and there's a little $sign to the right where you type your chat. Oh, yes. Okay, so you guys are talking about that. Yes, I'm still here. This is still live. But thank you guys for, yeah, so I made, oh, thank you, Cynthia. Thank you so much for the support and the super chat. Whoops. Okay, so here I did something bad. I almost crossed it. That's very, very bad. So we'll see how twisted this gets as I do this. Thank you so much for the super chat. That really helps. The contribution helps fund everything that I do. So I knit this blank, and I think I just want to, that might get it in my way a little bit. Oh well. I knit this blank out of 2 strands of Swish DK yarn on my Singer knitting machine. Now, the Singer knitting machine is really made for worsted weight. Oh, funny, it's pooling a little bit on the skein. That is awesome. I wonder if it'll keep doing that throughout, but that's really fun. Anyway, I did this on my Singer knitting machine, and the machine is really intended for, okay, I don't think it's going to do it all the way. That's too bad. The Singer knitting machine is intended for worsted weight yarn, which means that, actually, this isn't too twisted. That's good. Which means that when you try to do double-stranded worsted or DK, it's thicker than the machine can handle, and the machine really struggled. Now, I think that this yarn is awesome with, oh, thank you, Sarah Evans. Thank you for your support. Yeah, so I think that the speckling in more areas than others is so cool and fun. It's just, you know, I risked breaking the machine to make this blank. And therefore, it's something that it'll be up to you whether that's something that's worth it in the future. And I'm so far, I mean, I'm through, what, like 1/6 of it. And so far it doesn't seem to be too twisted, so that's nice. One of the first double-stranded homemade blanks that I unraveled was a bit of a pain because I did the center pull ball. And, oh, we're almost all the way through those more variegated sections because of the diagonal. But I think that when you knit it, it'll be really, really fun. But these are sort of screaming. Swish is so soft that this yarn feels like it really wants to be mitts or something like that. You have storm sirens sounding? Yikes, I hope that you're safe. Because that's not a good thing. Yeah, this is unraveling really well. And I love the way that the colors are sort of pooling onto the Nitty Knotty. So you can really see the brinks. Yes, please be safe, Oreo. Yeah, get under shelter. Because we had the like big nor'easter recently out here. No, I think that this is getting twisted. It's just since it's thicker. Oh yeah, it's twisting around. I must have done a center pull ball for this one. But even with it being twisted, it's still unraveling really nicely, so that's good. As long as I don't let it start getting too crimped or something. But Swish, I think the Swish DK is something that I might buy a 20 pack when it comes back in stock at Knit Picks. I'd like to add just 100% superwash merino yarn to my arsenal, and I think that this is a good candidate. Oh, yeah, so I can show. So we're in part of one of the diagonals, and okay, maybe you can't really see that we've got the specks of yellow and the specks of orange. But unlike this gradient, which was soft and clean on the strobe link because we sort of had the colors blend together, this will just make it, depending on what you make, it could be really cool, but also give just some, another way to give blending to the color transitions. Eek. But yeah, we're approaching the halfway point, and I do need to untwist this. The nice thing is that this lasted pretty well before I needed to really untwist. So I'm going to attempt to clip that together, and let's see if I can. Nope, that did not let me do that. But let's try clipping just right there. Okay, I'm going to need to stand up. See, I'm just letting it spin. Oh, thank you, Angie. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really, really appreciate the support. There we go. So this is slow, but when I did the center pull ball on the fingering weight yarn, I think the Imagination hand painted yarn I did also super a center pull ball. That ended up really twisted and was a lot harder to get through than the DK. I mean, I'm untwisting, but I'm already halfway through. So that's great. But Angie, thank you so much for the super chat. I really, really appreciate it. All right. And you don't need a weighted clip to untwist like I just did. You could use just like a chip clip. But the weighted clip, I think, helped a little bit. So, you thought only Canadians pronounce it nor'easter? Nah, us New Englanders do as well. I mean, if I was going to say northeast, I would say northeast. But in terms of the weather pattern, yeah. But so it's so fun the way that this is unraveling. I think that this is a fun example of how these colors could pool when you knit, especially if you're doing something really thin like fingerless mitts, you might get some pooling. If you're doing something more like a hat with yarn like this, where you dyed one side differently from the other, then you might get some micro stripes, or you could get the colors pooling as well. I think that it's really fun. Okay, so now we're almost past that intermediate. Oof. But this is fun. Although the one thing with this one is that when I take some pictures, like I can't just, with these other gradients, I could take a picture of just like a little section and it's representative. And that's not something that I can do as much on this one because, you might miss out on all the colors. But again, the nice thing about doing, and I'm getting, my tension issues. One strand is a little longer than the other. But the thing with this and doing these double-stranded blanks is you end up with 2 identical 50-gram skeins of yarn. Now, I mean, you can make a double-stranded blank with get 2 identical 100-gram skeins of yarn, or 200-gram skeins of yarn, or, if you're starting with a cone, I mean, I guess the sky's the limit. But at some point, there's a limit to what you can fit in a pot easily. So, and we keep flipping over. Oh, thank you so much, Beatles fan, or Sonia. I guess, it's like I start with the start of the username, but your name is at the end. Thank you so much for the super chat, and it is my pleasure to teach all of you. I have so much fun doing this, and seeing the things that you guys create and seeing that this is helpful for people out there really, really makes all of this so worthwhile to me. And so I appreciate all of the support. Ooh, okay. I need to like write that down sometime. I have not tried craftsy classes on my own. I'm gonna do some unravel or untwisting again because this is getting a bit unwieldy for me. But I haven't done any craftsy classes. Oops, I should clip this in the correct spot. I haven't done any craftsy classes yet myself. I am a craftsy affiliate because they have some bare yarns. Oh, Dana, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. I'm a craftsy affiliate because they have some bare yarns and stuff, but they sent me the link, which I shared in the ChemKnits lab group, and I shared on the ChemKnits page because they're offering through, I guess, tomorrow. If you sign up, there we go. For Craftsy Unlimited, you can get it for $1 for 2 weeks, which is pretty cool. I would drop that link in the video description here, or in the chat, but the chat doesn't usually like the affiliate links that I try to put in. But yeah, so if and since it's a trial, I believe that you could cancel after that. I mean, I'm an affiliate. I don't think I get any credit for just like doing the trial, only if you like stay with the membership. But I think that, getting an additional 2 weeks for $1 is pretty nice. Otherwise, I think you can always get 1 week for free in a trial. So yes, but at some point I have a feeling that I will end up, maybe I'm going to have like Craftsy Unlimited as, ooh, that's a good thing to put on my wish list for Christmas next year. I always sort of struggle with things to put on. This year I got subscriptions to some online newspapers because I didn't want to just do my few articles a month. But I think the pooling of this is actually really fun too. But it does show how rescanning, I mean, you could rescan this in a way, with even an inch difference on here. And then you would not have the rainbow sections necessarily pooling as you unravel it. And so it's hard sometimes when you look at a skein that it has been reskeined to get a sense of how the yarn will behave. So that's why having pictures of the blanks and stuff I think are important. Oh, funny. I got a little stuck section. Hold on. Yeah, I have trouble just being silent sometimes. Okay, there we go. Because we had like a bit of fiber sticking them together. We're approaching the end. Yeah, this is so pretty. And is unraveling really, really nicely. They activated the wrong county? Yikes. Yeah, that would scare me pretty big as well. I'm glad that you're all right, Oreo. But I hope that everyone in the right county is all right as well. Yeah, so we'll get, but yeah, my neighbors across the street lost a tree on a different neighbor's car, which, I mean, I think just cracked one of the windows of the other car. I think that the owners of the car were really lucky because, the damage is something that's easy to fix. But yeah, it was, like my in-laws lost power for a while, for a couple days, and so we were lucky. We didn't lose power. I was doing a live stream during it, so I was like, I might lose power, and so if everything goes black, that's because of the weather. You see that the color bands that pop up on the super chats are different for different amounts. Yeah. They're different. I think with the super chat, you get different colors with different amounts. And then you also, they will pop up for different lengths of time as well. Now at some point, I do plan to set up a Patreon account, I think. I'm still working out sort of the details of how I want to, what I would want to do for rewards and stuff for everybody. But I plan to do that once the Kickstarter obligations have been fulfilled. So once I'm not sure if I would wait, if I'm going to wait until Die Cut Weekly number 35 comes out, or if I'm just going to wait until I've filmed and uploaded Die Cut Weekly number 35. But that, and I will have, you know, I am at the very, very early stages of planning a de-stash sale, which would be, well, because I am dyeing way more yarn than I can knit with, but that is another way coming up. I know people often ask if I sell yarn, and I guess the answer is sort of. Occasionally. So, eek. But yeah, I'll probably do the de-stash sale through Etsy, I think. Eek. Oh, come on. There we go. Got a little stuck. Huh. Sometimes you can really see the tension differences because you can see that one end of the nitty naughty is starting to slope. But I am approaching, and why are you being, oh, it's because I'm on different rounds, I think. That I'm not in the same, not unraveling together, which is goofy. I don't know how I managed to do that. I guess when, you know, with the slope, I've got one skein that one side is a bit shorter than the other. That's irritating. Yeah, because then I end up with a lot longer section. Oh, goofy. I wonder if there's enough for me to, yeah, no, not enough for a whole loop, but enough that it's going to unravel a bit and cross our fingers that I don't get tingles. Oh, da, 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 da. You do a monthly special for yarn on Patreon that you dye in videos. Yeah. The thing that, yes, I could certainly do through Patreon like a yarn of the month club or mini skein of the month club. And I've thought about that. I just want to make sure that that whatever I do will allow me to have the energy go towards creating videos versus selling yarn. Because there's a lot of people that sell yarn really, really well. And while it's something that is, for me, handy, haha, I don't even need the clippy anymore because this is so short. While it's something that is useful and a way for me to continue to get more materials, I want the emphasis to be on the teaching aspect. So yeah, I just need to figure out what works for time, and I want to make sure I can do things that I can fulfill. And this is getting wonky. Here we go. As I'm nearing the end. But overall, the unraveling, oh, yeah. Ah! I knew that was coming. I saw it and I was like, oh, I should fix this. And then it popped. And then this is when you cry. Hopefully I can get this back, but it's not going to be as pretty for my picture. Oh, goodness. Oh, man. So close. So, so, so close. There we go. Wahoo. Okay. Let's cross our fingers. Cross our fingers that this will stay. There we go. I was eyeing that and then it popped. This is why live streaming can be fun. You guys get like real reactions. No, we're good. We're good. It's funny that there's a delay because I see now that I have everything fixed, I see all the oh no's coming in. But we're good. We're good. For now, at least. And I don't even think that I crossed them either. Hey, I know my sailor stayed inside my head. I mean, this was not, you know, almost all tangles are fixable. Broken computers are not always fixable. But my Chromebook seems to be fine, thankfully. Thankfully. In, what was it, the first live stream? I can't even remember now. I spilled water on my Chromebook. And, oh, and we also had a webcam stop working at one point. That stream had lots of adventures. Okay, I'm just going ahead and unraveling the rest. Although, because since I'm like off tension-wise, it's making things hard. But I can give a sort of zoom in of the way that, can you even tell? So we've got like these speckled sections, and then they've got these lighter sections in between. So it sort of gives us a pattern of the speckling. And you could do this, and I think I did do this, where I did spray paint in colors on one side of one of these blanks that I made in the round, and then I did a different color on the other. So it doesn't have to be white that's in the middle. But, eek. The one danger of doing this, unraveling it all, is that I'm risking tangles, but you guys are awesome. You guys are really, really awesome. So what number is this? So that's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 5th one today. I think this is the most, I think the most I've ever unraveled in one live stream is 2. Oh, Debbie, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much for the support. I really, really appreciate it. It's funny, I had super chats turned on for a while, but never really like thought to ask for them or anything until this live stream. And then you guys have started doing it, and I appreciate it. I know that some of you have been asking me to do another Kickstarter or something so that way you can support me. But this is a nice little way that helps. And I am actually hoping, one of the things that reasons why I've been holding off Patreon is I've been sort of hoping that YouTube will they offer sponsorships for gamers right now, but not for other types of creators, which is sort of a bummer. I know that they're trying to compete with Twitch, which is why that they're doing the sponsorships for the gamers. But yeah, you can see one of these was a lot longer than the other. Okay. Now I can, yeah, so again, this was a homemade blank that I made using Swish DK, and I knit it on my Singer knitting machine, which is a way that I do not actually recommend. But here, let's see if you can see the whole thing. So we've got some really cool gradients. It's still rainbow, but we've got these spots with more speckles mixed in with less, which is really, really fun. Yes, thank goodness for all of the PVC. Absolutely. Okay, let's move. Man, sometimes these are so beautiful sometimes things are just so gorgeous when they are on the Nitty Naughty that I do not want to ever unravel them. But yeah, this one is funny because this one is one that is really hard to, it's harder for me to photograph it because, and of course there's stuff in the backdrop. It's harder for me to photograph this one because of the white patches and the fact that the colors pooled as I was doing this. So it makes it, we've still got a gradient, but it's a bit different from some of the other ones that we've done. But so then this one, I really need to show the whole thing to show off the rainbow. And okay, actually, I guess now might be a decent time to insert a brief commercial break as I am taking these pictures. Oh, I can kind of do it that way, but oh, and hello. So yeah, I'm going to send you guys to a brief commercial break for some of you. But yes, so thank you for sticking around as, you know, I stand up and cover the camera with my back so I can take some pictures of this cut. I will be doing a recap of all of these videos at some point. The plan is to do a recap so that way you can see the yarns on the Nitty Naughty, the yarns in a twisted skein, and the yarns like as they looked beforehand. But oh, Tabitha, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. Hopefully you don't have an ad playing right now so you can hear me, but I'll thank you again once the notice that's playing ad, like some of your viewers are, basically I get a message that says some of my viewers are seeing an ad, keep streaming. So yeah, so you should be able to, because the live stream's long, you should be able to scroll along the bottom to get to the relevant part. But Tabitha, Carol, thank you so much for the super chat. I really, really appreciate it. And here again is this rainbow blank. And if we compare it, if we compare it to our other rainbow gradient, you can see that there are a lot of similarities in these two yarns. The main difference is that, in the Swish DK gradient, we have these white patches. And we could have avoided this if I had flipped it over and just spray painted the other side. Then we could have gotten these really cool specks throughout the whole thing. But I wanted to play with speckles and potentially pooling or mixing it up. And having these blanks that are done in the round is a great way to get some, like, you know, something more like if I had a skein and I hand painted half of the skein with speckles, we would get a similar effect to what we saw here. So, oh, you're a red subscriber, so you don't see ads. Yes, but I do get some contribution, like YouTube distributes, and I don't know how, but they do give me some red revenue if you have YouTube Red. But yeah, so we've got, you know, a much, oh dear, where am I? Oh, I have my hands through it. Okay. I have a much softer gradient here on the Stroll double stranded blank than I do on this other blank that I did. And okay. But all of these I plan, and I can show off how, so if some of you are just tuning in, here is, oops, here's one of the first skeins that we did. It was the crocheted random one. We've got these really pretty colors, but you can see that it's pretty crimped. And so that's why I will want to wash it at some point. And let's see. Okay, so this one, since these are crimped, I'm usually really bad about adding extra ties to things because, you know, I'm pretty good at keeping things straight. But since the ties that are wrapped around are pretty loose, and I believe I took pictures of this one already. So they're pretty loose. I am adding some extra ties just so that way if I drop things, I don't get a mess of all these tangles. And I'm just double checking. Okay, cool. I got some pictures of this while it was on the Nitty Naughty. And where is, I think I'm going to unravel. Okay, that's where that is. Just seeing where I want to add the ties. I think I'm going to unravel another single-stranded blank in a moment. I could convert this one to a longer Nitty Naughty, but I don't think I need to. yeah, the color on the crochet blank came out great. I really, really like the Big O yarn. That is 50% superwash merino, 50% nylon from Knit Picks. And there is, so all the yarns that I'm unraveling today are Knit Picks yarns. And there are links in the video description to the Knit Picks bare yarns that I use. And I do get, of course I popped the wrong one off, I think. Oh no, I didn't. Yes, I did. I do get a credit for making sales and stuff. But you can see that it's good that I added those other tags because look at how, I think that if I wet it, like soak it in some water and then go, that should help it relax, not drying on the Nitty Naughty. Okay, the other end of the yarn is right here, which is right next to the other tie that I have. But that is okay. I'll just tie that off. But this is why I decided to bother adding some additional ties, because actually this was really pretty looking with all these crimps in the very, very subtle gradient. Oh no, am I still in? No. That actually shows the gradient nicely. Cool. Just so I can show pictures when I do the big recap. Oh, Albatross, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's see. Thank you for all the wonderful videos. I've learned so much about dyeing, and they're all a pool of inspiration for me. Oh, and another one. Chris, thank you so much, Chris, for the super chat. You guys, I really, really appreciate the support. This makes it a lot easier for me to justify doing these big live streams with, doing the long unraveling one just makes sense for me to do a bunch of this at once. But with the big live streams where I dye a lot of yarn, this all really helps because the material cost of the sock blank special was high. So this really, really helps. Thank you, everyone. How do you straighten these out if you don't keep them on the pipes? So yeah, my plan is to soak this in some water, which if I soak it, and sort of just like you would block a shawl, if I soak it and then sort of straighten it a bit, I don't know if I'll need a weight, but I have some, I think with plastic shower curtain hooks, you could add some weight to the bottom and top to help it hang. So that's a way. Yeah, the crimps are also just beautiful. I sort of almost want to create like an art wall of a bunch of these yarns. I think that would be really, really cool. But this will give us, and I think I'll do one more, and then I might, okay, so I think my plan is to do one more right now, and then I might take a break, have some lunch, and then come back on again and do some more live streaming. I'm having a lot of fun, so I think that it would be worth doing, coming on and doing some more this afternoon. So I don't know the time I would start again, but I'd take a little break and then come back. All right. So the blank, bye mini camera. The blank I'm going to dye now, this is the single-stranded blank that I dyed in the first live stream in random patterns. So I had folded the blank in half and then sort of crinkled it and tied it with rubber bands. And then I dyed one half into a pale green, and then I flipped it over into the other half in a pale brown. And you've got some pictures of the in-progress dyeing in the recap from that first live stream. But then in the stamping and stenciling live stream, I added on some of these really cool DNA shapes with using a foam brush and some stencils. And I thought that it was really, really fun. So the yarn that I dyed without the stenciling would have been gorgeous to just unravel as is. It's something that I think is just, it was going to be a fun gradient, but I wanted a non-white backdrop to unravel. So that way there would be, I didn't want all the negative space to be white on everything I did with the stamping and stenciling. So I think that's the live sign. Can you send super chats on not live videos? No, I don't believe so. And I'm not sure, you might be able to send, the super chat button shows up on a scheduled live stream. So I don't know if you can send a super chat in advance before I'm actually live or not, but I don't believe that there's any way to send money not while I'm not live. What is, there we go. Oh, you're gonna ply it. You sort of like the crimps. Oh yeah, you could ply the crimps and do something gorgeous with it. It would be it'd be hard to ply. I mean, I don't have the spinning skills just because of the uptake. I would have trouble keeping it crimped while spinning, but I think it would be really fun. Oh, I mean, I can see, I would be able to see, I mean, I think right here I'd have to go through, but I can see basically the nice thing, the other fun thing about super chats is that they get saved. So a lot of times, now YouTube now offers a way that, and I haven't seen it, the option to turn on any of my videos yet, but they're starting to offer live chat replay. So that way when you're watching a video, you can see the chat that comes up, which is not something that is an option for any of my videos yet. But all the super chats that I receive are saved, and so I can go back and see them. So that's something that I can always see. On some channels, there's a sponsor button on their channel page. Yes, that right now, that is only an option for gamers and then some other channels that are beta testing. I am not one I haven't had the option of turning that on yet. So at some point, hopefully, because I would prefer that to setting up Patreon, but just to, limit the number of different platforms that I'm doing. But I really, really appreciate all of you guys supporting me. But anyway, I'm going to unravel this one now. And so this was a blank I made, a flat blank I made on my loops and threads knitting machine. So I hand cranked it myself. It's done with one strand of, and it's sort of like it's a nice little relief to be using the shorter nitty naughty to unravel something again. I think I'm going to put the weighted clip on to just kind of keep it from moving so that way I can unravel it. But you get a lot less, I mean, this is a pale tan right here. You do get some modeling from these when you have sections where you get different colors and stuff. But overall, and we might see some more modeling when we get to the DNA parts, even though there's pretty reasonable color penetration through the blank. But in general, you get, with 100% wools where the dyes tend to absorb a bit slower, you don't get as much of the modeling that we saw on, say, some of our stroll blanks. So again, the fiber type that you select, and it does contribute to the results in addition to the method that you use for the dyeing itself. Wow, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for all of the support, everyone. This and just really helps. But yeah, so we're going to have mostly tan and green, I think, with flecks of it's really more of a purple. I used some black. I forget if it was the Colorite. I think it was the Wilton Colorite black that I mixed in to make the shapes. But I did this with guar gum as a thickener, so that way I could get some really nice definition with the stencils. Going forward, I think with the stroll yarn, and you can see on the birds back here that we've got really sharp lines, I mixed a 1/4 teaspoon of the guar gum in with, and we're getting, in the DNA, we're getting some really cool modeled sections. But I mixed, for all of the guar gum that I used in this one live stream, I had mixed a 1/4 teaspoon of the guar gum powder in 8 ounces of water. And then I used that over and I mixed that with different food coloring for all of the stamping and stenciling that I did, except for where I used straight Wilton icing color. And then But I think that for 100% wool that's not been superwash treated, it could be worth going up to a half teaspoon. I just wanted to start off with a low amount so that way we knew if we wanted to try increasing it to get sharper lines on colors that don't absorb the food coloring as fast. So I thought that that would be fun. And let's see. Helpful to fund the next extravaganza. Yes, definitely. Thank you, everyone. You hang your yarn on the doorknob so it doesn't really hurt it. You hang your yarn up on hangers and use 5 hangers to weigh it down. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I have a large wire rack from IKEA that is used for like drying clothes and stuff. And so with the blanks, if I want things to dry really fast, I almost dry them flat across it. So I could fit a lot more on there. It would just dry a lot slower. But this, I think this is going to be fun. It's going to be a really unique asymmetric colorway. Even though I use the same color to stencil all the DNAs, I think that this is going to turn into something really pretty. And so although it's a single strand, so it's going to be one 100-gram skein, since the colors go all the way throughout, you could still make, say, mittens, sock. Maybe there's not quite enough to do worsted weight socks. I'm not sure. I don't remember how much I would need. But even with the total asymmetric nature, you would still get, since the colors are all the way through, you could get something that's coordinated. So I know that like with this wild stripe, this happens to be a double knit blank. So you could end up with identical socks, but you could do a single stranded blank with this striping pattern like that with non-repeating stripes and then end up with some really, really cool coordinated but non-perfectly matched socks or something in the end. So there's a lot, you're definitely not limited to just socks with all of this. I haven't even thought about what I'm going to make for lunch. I don't know if I still have leftovers. But yeah, I like school days because then I don't get interrupted. But this yarn looks really, really, whoops. I think I just knocked the tripod. Looks really cool. So someone has asked at some point, when you dye with these patterns, will you see the patterns when you did it up? And oh dear. I see, okay. Now I'm going back because I messed up at one point on here and hopefully it wasn't too long ago. But I'm a stickler. So the pattern that you dye will not show up in whatever you make unless you match the gauge. And so therefore, does it matter that I dyed DNA on here? No. Okay. Come on. Oh man. I'm going to end up with a tank. Aha, there we go. Messed up on my nitty naughty. So the odds of getting the DNA on something that you're making are next to nothing. But you can still get something. It's a way to send like a fun message to something. So if someone's a big fan of the sports team, you could write out like a Go Red Sox on a blank, dye it, unravel it, and then use it to make, a hat or gloves or something. And then you both know that the project that you were dyeing has that message in it, in addition to whatever pattern you were making. So there's just ways to add an extra layer of fun, sort of like inside jokes. You could do all kinds of stuff. But I think that the stenciling is something that is especially fun. Oh, this is just really pretty. The stenciling is something that is especially fun if you are going to give the blank, intact blank, or a picture of the blank to someone. But if you have a shop and you plan to unravel and sell the yarn, then maybe it would be something fun to do on an intact blank that you sell. But if you're just selling the unraveled yarn, it could be something fun to play with. But otherwise the shapes that you're dyeing don't matter as much. This unravels pretty easily. The flat blanks have some mistakes in them, but once you get the rhythm down, it isn't so bad. No, I am not expecting. um, no, it's the, I guess my dress is bunching up. It's like a full skirt on with the top. No, my youngest is 2 years old. So, but anyway, yeah, I like this dress a lot. It's got pockets, and so it's very comfy, and it's easy to like run around and then still stick my phone or snacks for the kids or something in my pockets. Because otherwise I struggle in the summer because I'm like, how do I carry keys to my house, chase after the kids, have things that they might need? So anything with pockets is a winner in my book. Yeah, the dark spots are really, really fun. Now I think that because I do plan to pop back on, it won't be at the same URL, but I'll share it. If you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, you should get notified when through email or something, or maybe even on your phone if you have the app, when I start the next live stream. Because I think I'll probably just start it versus having it scheduled when I'm ready. So it'll be a new URL versus, the same spot. A flowery dress with pockets is the best thing ever next to yarn. Yep, pretty much. I have this dress in multiple different patterns and stuff too. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, so we do on this one the gradient, and the yarn has fallen to the floor. The overall gradient of this one is way more subtle than some of the other ones. There is more green on one end and more tan on the other, but both colors are throughout, which I think is great if it's great for making into one thing, or if you wanted to use it for two separate things, there is something that still makes it relatable. If you have a single-stranded blank and you dip dye it or paint it in like a full rainbow, like say that rainbow strobe blank was single-stranded instead of double-stranded, then if you were making two things, it wouldn't necessarily feel like it was all one yarn in the same kind of way. So it's just something that if you have a project in mind, you can think about and you want to make or buy a blank for it. It helps to think about the kind of blank so that way you know what kind of colors you might be able to achieve. But yeah, the stamping is just a fun way to add. And I've seen some people do some really incredible things with hand painting on blanks. I mean, I know one of you did some really awesome trees, and so there's just a lot that can be done. You have to concentrate when you use the nitty knot. You get confused really easily. Ooh, your cousin's wedding dress had pockets? Yeah, no. Oh, I mean, I lose my train of thought all the time. I'll start talking about something and then kind of jump topics and then go back and forth. So I try to stay, when I'm doing a pre-filmed video, I can stay a little more on topic than I do in the live streams, but it's just fun. But yeah, unraveling a single-stranded blank is a lot faster, at least for me personally, but that's because I'm pretty comfortable with using the nitty knotty. But so then I guess that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess we did 6 in under 2.5 hours. Not bad. I mean, maybe I could have gone faster at some points if I wasn't chatting, but here is our really pretty, DNA blank. And so if you look at just the end, you can get a little sense of the subtlety of the gradient with more tan and then coming on more green. But then you have the specks of black throughout, and it's very, very subtle, but would be really fun to do into some kind of cowl, or 100 grams isn't quite enough for a scarf, but you could do something really, really fun with it. And so here is the yarn. Aw, thank you. I am awesome. And I mean, I can be pretty humble at times too. Here's another view on the other camera of this yarn, which is just a lot of fun. And my arm isn't as tired as I thought. I think that mixing up the single-stranded blanks and the double-stranded blanks helps because it gives like a, I don't remember if that one was single or double. It gives a nice break in between. But yes, it would make, I think 220 yards is not too much for a shawl. I think that I would love to do this kind of colorway on a single-stranded blank, a single-stranded fingering weight blank to have enough for a shawl. Or you could, continue, you could try to do two, something in one of these techniques, but you want to unravel a knitted garment. So I think a knitting eye would be helpful. So you have a yarn that is half acrylic, some wool, and some cotton. I think that the best type of dye to use would be a fiber reactive dye. These are dyes that work on most natural fibers. It wouldn't work on the acrylic, but you would get something. Oh, I'm on top of the Afghan. I can't really get it. You wouldn't be able to get a super saturated color because of the acrylic in the fiber, but you would be able to get it would almost look kind of cool and heathered because of that. But I would try for a fiber reactive dye because that would dye both the cotton and the wool. If you were just going to use an acid dye, you would get something that is much more pastel because only the wool would dye. So RIT dyes, what's funny is I've had some good success with RIT dyes, but I've heard from other people that they can wash out of cottons at some point. And so I need to do some tests with that. But a RIT dye, or something that works for, I don't have other brands off the top of my head except for thinking of like Dharma fiber reactive dyes, but that's the kind of dye that you would want with a yarn in that mix, Helen. But yeah, I think that these, and here's another one of the pretties that we did today. So we unraveled 6 so far. I think I'm going to stop this stream to take a bit of a break, but then I will be on, I don't know, if somewhere between probably a half hour and an hour, I'll start up again to do some more unraveling before I have to go pick up the kids from school. You have a wool nylon rayon blend. Rayon probably behaves a bit like cotton. Again, it helps to look at the dyes to see what they recommend. Like the Galileo yarn that I have is 50% wool, 50% viscose from bamboo, and that actually dyes up really nicely with food coloring and wasn't as pale as I thought. So yeah, I mean, it's something to, if you aren't sure if something will work the way you want, cut off even like a little snip that's just a couple inches long and try it with a little bit if it's something that's easy to do. I mean, you could also do a mini skein or something, but even if you only have like a limited amount of the yarn available, doing a little snip as a test is a good way to see if whether or not the dyes even work. So that would be fun. But thank you all for tuning in for this live stream. Thank you all also for the super chats. Those contributions are so helpful for funding all of this content. I really, really appreciate all of your support. Since the next live stream is not scheduled, you can either check back on the channel to just see if I'm live again, or subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications, and then you should be notified when I start back up. So thank you. Yeah, Tabitha, with only 25% rayon, that should dye really, really well, I think, with food coloring and with acid dyes. So anyway, thank you all, and I will see you soon. Bye, everyone.